Technology is the most powerful change in the world of education.
Everything changes.
Welcome to the Emerging Technologies in Education podcast, delivered to you by Clever Books Company. Hi listeners, thank you very much for joining Emerging Technologies in Education podcast. And today our guest is Avi. I would like to give the word to Avi to introduce himself and tell which country he is coming from and what is he doing in life. Hi, Avi.
Hi, I'm Avi Warshavsky. I'm from Israel, and I'm CEO of MindCET. MindCET is an innovation center for educational technology in Israel. We have R&D unit and also an accelerator for startups in the field of education. And we're existing about 5 years, and since we have started, we had about 120 products that were developed in our accelerator and an R&D activity. We are located in Israel, actually in 2 venues. We have offices in Tel Aviv, which is the heart of the ecosystem of the startup in Israel, but also we have our headquarters is in the south of Israel, in the desert, in the Negev desert. Beautiful landscape and a very inspiring environment for innovation.
It sounds absolutely brilliant. So you're working for the accelerator that helps educational startups. Is that correct?
Yes.
This is brilliant. Can you tell me a little bit more about this? Like what you do, what kind of startups that are dealing with education are there in Israel, which technologies they're using, and a little bit more detail on that.
Well, we work actually we have 3 programs that our core activities is based on those programs. One program is Accelerator for Startups, which are very business oriented, and they are looking for finding a business model for what they do. Another one is for teacher entrepreneurs, and the third one is an R&D program. The subjects of the startups itself are very, very diverse. Some of them are aiming to K-12, which is our main expertise, but others are aimed to vocational training, to higher education, to corporate training. So it's a very diverse group. We do everything that has something to do with learning. We assume that in the end of the day, learning is a very common ground for things that can afterwards be moving from one area to another one, from let's say from K-12 to higher education or others transitions. And I can say that the startups that are growing in MindCET, we have in each cohort between 8 to 10 startups, are more of learning outside school and less in school. The teacher entrepreneurs projects are more in-school solutions, and the R&D are usually trying to touch the most cutting-edge opportunities like VR, AR, AI, and so forth.
This sounds really interesting. So, and do you see a potential for technology in education in Israel market and for Israel schools? And how is it in general in Israel? Are there a lot of technology in the classroom, or people are still hesitant about using it? How it looks like, the whole landscape?
Well, first of all, Israel is a very small market and also very unique in the sense that most of our market is Hebrew speaking and some of it is Arabic speaking. So most of our startups are looking globally from day one. Like they're using Israel as a beta site, but they are also trying to find markets outside Israel. In Israel, there is a very diverse environment in the sense of schools. We can see schools that are very advanced in using technology. We can see other schools that are much more conservative and avoid technology. But I think that altogether the challenges are very similar to the ones we see in the rest of the Western world. Like there is a big demand for using technology, but not always the understanding of how to do it right.
Okay, that sounds interesting. I think pretty much similar we see currently also in Europe that there are a lot of startups coming up with ideas for education. However, they are not 100% accepted and the market is quite conservative. And while talking to different teachers around the world and also in Ireland and Europe, I have found out that teachers feel that it's a little bit sometimes it's a little bit outside their comfort zone to um, to do something with the technology in the classroom. What do you think on that?
Well, first of all, I think we should look wider than the classroom. Like I think technology has a lot to do with learning process in general, and since almost all the players in this game, teachers, students, parents, we are all living in a way in the internet space. We should see the whole day as subject for using technology, not just the classroom. And sometimes even classroom is the opportunity to do something face to face without forcing technology necessarily to be plugged into everything we do in classroom. In the end of the day, I think there are solutions that are a good fit for the classroom, but they should be selected in a way that is really justified from the pedagogy perspective. And sometimes we run too fast with the adopting new solutions, especially hardware. I think it's usually the case, without really understanding good enough what are the pedagogy needs and what is the best way to do it. So I think there is a big potential in bringing technology into classroom, but it should be done wisely.
Okay, I got your point. That sounds really interesting. And if we're going down to some maybe specific tools, what do you think would be a good benefit for education? Is it going to be like e-libraries, maybe 3D printing, maybe augmented or virtual reality? In your personal opinion, what do you think is a good tool for educating and why?
Well, I think technology is a very big silo that we can find a group of different solutions. I can divide it into a few families in a way, but then we can even take some more concrete examples. I think there is one very interesting family that we can call clever machines, which is solutions that are based on artificial intelligence and suggest adaptive or personalized learning. I think there is interesting potential in this area or in this family of solutions, mainly because it can answer the challenge of an heterogenic classroom. Like we have in our classroom a very diverse and heterogenic group of students, both in the field of interest and in talents and also in fields of difficulties, and this way of using clever machines really can give each one his own suit. So it's a very interesting area that is doing its first steps, and I think there is big potential there. Another family is the family of makers, makers movement solutions. You mentioned the 3D printer is one of the aspects, but I think the whole makers approach is a very good framework for learning, not just let's say the usual suspects like learning science or programming and so forth, but also even humanities you can learn through this kind of media. And the makers movement brings a lot of opportunities in the sense of working in collaborative way, in the sense of really doing some cross disciplines learning and so forth. So I think there is big potential in this family as well. As to AR, VR, we did some projects in this field. I can say that the potential there is very big because you can really experience things that you cannot experience in real life. We're not there yet in the sense of infrastructure and in the sense of really arranging the daily life of learning around it. Most of the things we see are very small scale and are not really designed for a long process of learning. It's not like using a tablet or a PC. It's something like you can use 2 or 3 or 5 times, and then you're in a way understood the idea and you can skip. So I think the potential is there, but we are not there yet in the sense of understanding how to use it right, and we don't have yet the infrastructure, but it's a very interesting area as well.
That sounds interesting. And one more question to you. Like, you're dealing with a lot of startups and a lot of innovation in your accelerator. In your personal opinion, which startup in the educational field has created for you like wow effect, and you were really impressed by the solution they are bringing? Can you tell a little bit more about this?
Well, I can give one example, which is let's say one of our favorites. Alumni of MindCET is a startup called CodeMonkey. CodeMonkey is a startup that teaches kids to code through gaming, and they're alumni of our second cohort. And after they graduated MindCET, they became to be like a very strong leader of code teaching in Israel. The government adopted them after 2 years and made them like a platform for schools to compete with each other around coding. And following their success in Israel, they created a similar infrastructure also in other areas in the world. And today they are really all over. You can see them in Latin America and in Asia and in the United States. And I like their solution mainly because it really suggests something that we cannot reach in another media. Their game is a very engaging, non-educational game. Like, it's a real game, and kids are really engaged with the game. And from the other hand, the code that they are creating is not a kids' language. It's really an adult's language. They're writing in CoffeeScript, which afterwards the kids can really connect with other programmers. And the last aspect that I find interesting, although you are starting from a very basic stages, like everyone can do it, as you go further in this process, it's become more and more difficult. And as opposed to other solutions that I know, they are not feeling any mercy on the kids in the sense of challenging them, and kids appreciate this approach. And so I think those 3 aspects make them a very interesting solution.
That's really interesting. Yeah, thank you very much. And last question from me: if you put yourself in the shoes of a teacher who has a lot of technical solutions for the educational purposes in front of him, what would you advise to do? Which way to go and where to start from?
Well, first of all, I think I agree with the question. I think it's not an easy position to be teachers nowadays. I think teachers, from the one hand, have their very busy schedule and demanding approach from everyone. From the other hand, parents and kids are expecting them to be like tech savvies. So I think the first step should be like investing in themselves as the users. I think teachers should be really high-end users themselves and use as much as they can as learners solutions, and then I think this is the key for them to be more confident afterwards in adopting different solutions. I can say that we are facing this challenge, and we are now launching like an online course. Actually, we're going to launch it officially in the BET conference in January in London, which is an online course that it's like an introduction to the EdTech world for teachers, for educators. And it includes both really step-by-step entering this culture, and also having some interactions with real startups in the development stage. And our main purpose is exactly this, really to make like a first step into this world in a very respecting way from the one hand, and from the other hand, really opening a landscape that is not their natural environment today.
Is it going to be online, or it's going to be physical event?
Well, actually, we have a physical event in January 23 in London, which is the final competition of the Global Startup Awards. That we are the organizers together with other partners worldwide. So this is the physical event, but during the BET show, starting from January 24th until January 27th, we will have a booth in the BET show, in which we're going to present this online course and invite educators from all over the world to join this program.
I think it's really good and interesting podcast from the business point of view, and also a lot of tips for educators. Thank you very much for your time, Avi.
Thank you. Pleasure meeting you.
Everything changes.